Welcome back. I told you I'd be back, didn't I? And what I do? I came right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 2050 and beyond, or 2050 and beyond, if you want to keep it a little bit short. Already got a light coming in. But how y'all been, man? It's been like a couple days since we seen you, and a lot has happened in a couple days, right? But, you know, the reason why I'm at a little bit of a loss for words, you guys didn't notice, is because like it's week 2, and this time we get to tackle something that's pretty dear to my heart. We're talking about Black media today, and then 2 days from now. And as a Howard University student in the School of Communications, media is kind of like my whole thing. So us doing Black media is really special to me because a lot of people will sort of pigeonhole what media is in the sense that they think it's a film or they think it's a TV show. They don't even understand that this right here is media. You know what I'm saying? So we get to understand, like, we get to critique ourselves and also praise ourselves, kind of like what we're doing here. So media takes any form here. Media is usually a conduit for some sort of informational exchange. And I think that's really what we want to get people to know. So so glad I'm back. We're happy to be back. We're happy to be back. I mean, it's been a lonely couple days, but we're just happy to be back, and we're happy you're with us because that's what it's all about. We're just growing the village. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share because it's still early, and we don't want anyone to miss what's about to go on. Because I'm pretty excited about this one. I mean, people was telling me, oh, like Black media, that's the one we want to do. That's what we want to do, and I'm excited. So I had to go out there and I had to get these Black media experts in a sense because y'all know when we gonna cover an issue here, then we're gonna make sure that we get some people who know what they're talking about. And we really got some heavy hitters with this one. So I'm happy you guys are here, and I'm happy to share this Black media with you. But don't forget, this is still a Clever Communities in Action branch. We're a child under CCIA, and we want to pay homage to CCIA. So don't forget that foundational literacy skills are a huge plus for us, and books are media too. And that's what we're trying to push. We're just trying to push this Black media that affirms Blackness. But another thing that affirms Blackness is our girl Shania right here.
Greetings, virtual villagers. My name is Shania, and do you know what time it is? It's affirmation time! Time to remind ourselves how great we are. So everybody, repeat after me. I am smart. I have purpose. I am confident. I am valuable. My voice is worthy of being heard. I am an asset to my family, school, and community. I respect myself and I respect others. I am beautifully made inside and out. I love my beautiful hair and I love my beautiful brown skin. I am more than enough. Great job, virtual villagers. Can I get a virtual high five? Great job. And always remember how fantastic you are.
Thank you, Shania. Thank you, Shania, for always reminding us. Oh, wow. Oh, man. You saw how I just perked up? Okay, so this right here, that's Shania. Like, I'm just excited. It's like a celebrity sighting and all, man. Okay, that's Shania. So the person you just saw give us that powerful affirmation, she's in the building. She's in the building. So give much props to Shania. I mean, powerful person. Shania is my hero. Like when I grow up, I want to be Shania, man. But how you doing? Afro Anderson, we're happy that you could just pop in with us. I mean, I'm glad you love it. We're only 5 minutes in and you already love it. So must be doing something right. I'm glad you're here with us. We understand that things are busy, so if you can't stay the full time, as long as you popped in, that's great. Just don't forget to like and share. Happy to you. But oh man, Shania just got me all off my game because I was like, wow, celebrity sighting. But speaking of celebrities and revolutionaries, we have a certain thing we like to do here at 2050 and beyond, and we like to sort of learn from those who walk before us, the greats whose shoulders we stand upon. And seeing as 2050 and beyond is a broadcasted production, there's a certain broadcaster or filmmaker in a sense who filmmaker really undersells it because like trifected it. He wrote his films, he produced his films, and he directed his films. And this is at the dawn of filmmaking. And some of you might have guessed what Africana revolutionary are we going to be doing this week? And it's none other than the late, the always forever great Oscar Michaud. Ooh, Rusty, right there. And that right there is Oscar Michaud. And really, a lot of people don't know who Oscar Michaud is, but he's the father of Black cinema. Some would say he's probably one of the fathers of American cinema, if you wanted to be bold with it, which we always are here, because making claims that stake blackness where it deserves to be is kind of what we do here. And Oscar Michaud deserves to have his name written within the lights of forever. So a little bit about Brother Michaud, right? Is all right. Oscar Michaud was born near Metropolis, Illinois in 1884, and he was a Superman in his own right. You get the joke there, Metropolis, Superman. Y'all got it. Y'all got it. I don't got to spell it. But born into a family of 11 and growing up in post-Civil War Kansas, Michaud had quite a hill to climb. Funny enough, he spent his early years shining shoes and being a porter on the railroads. Had nothing to do with films or communications or anything at all. But then he went on to become a homesteader in South Dakota. And oddly enough, that's when his story that we know it began to take shape. I know, right? Being a homesteader in South Dakota, and that's where you get your start. Well, you see, it was in South Dakota that he began writing his own stories, with one of them being The Homesteader. And it was sort of an autobiographical, fictional book, which he's known to do not only in his books, but also his films. So, The Homesteader, pay attention to that one. And then he went on to, not only was he an author, but he decided that, well, people need to see what he has to say. So he began publishing his books. Autobiographical fiction, autofiction. That's a new word for you right there. Brought to you by the Brain Trust here at 2050 and beyond. All right. But not only was he an author, he also was the head of his own publishing company. So we see taking huge strides in the early 1900s. But then there's even more magic, because in 1919, a Black film company approached Oscar Michaud, and they were like, The Homesteader is great. We want to turn it into a film. And Oscar Michaud said, well, if you think it's great, then I shouldn't even take the money. I should just do my own thing with it. And that's exactly what he did. And that's how he became the first Black filmmaker in the country right there in 1919. Keep in mind, he was just homesteading a couple years back, and now he's breaking barriers right there. But so he formed his own publishing company after writing his own book. And then off of that book, he formed his own film company, where, like I said, he was doing things by the trifecta. He was writing them, directing them, and producing his films, with notable ones being The Homesteader, as I said, The Exile, and Body and Soul, which featured a rising Paul Robeson. You might have heard of him. And these were all silent films. But keep in mind that Oscar Michaud was making films up until his death in the 1950s. So we see him go from the silent film era all the way into the big motion picture thing that we see. And aside from Body and Soul having Paul Robeson, a superstar talent, his most famous film is Within Our Gates. And this is how I got to know about Oscar Michaud, was listening to a podcast named after the film Within Our Gates. And I suggest you check it out. But while you're here with me, Within Our Gates was a scathing critique and direct response, disarming the racist film, The Birth of a Nation, that is heavily touted by racists. And keep in mind, when Oscar Michaud made Within Our Gates, this was his second film. So he basically jumped off the porch and was like, this is what I'm about. This is what I'm going to do. And that's exactly what he did, because Michaud is a revolutionary, not just because he was making films as a Black person when no one else was. It was the fact that he was making films as a Black person. And these films were actively portraying Black people the way that we really lived in all of our glory and all of our splendor, but as well as just capturing our humanity and some of the contradictions that we lived in, which we saw with body and soul. But what we see here is that this is what it means to be a revolutionary, to never betray the people. And Michelle never did that. In fact, he stuck true to the people and his calling. And that's really what we see here with a lot of his films. I suggest you go check it out. And to make it even better, right? He was independent the whole time, his whole career. There was no Hollywood finagling, none of that. Oscar Micheaux wrote, produced, and directed for Oscar Micheaux, by Oscar Micheaux, all under Oscar Micheaux. There was no one turning the faucet on and off. It was all an independent organization, and that's truly admirable, especially coming from the onset in 1919 to 1951. And that really took a lot of determination, faith in himself, but also just the skill to do it. And unfortunately, he made transition on March 25th of 1951 while on a business trip in Charlotte, North Carolina. We give a lot of respect to you, Brother Micheaux. We hope that you are watching us now and you like what you see. But like I said, Clever Communities in Action, literacy-based organization. Where's the book, John? This time, I don't have the book to flex on y'all with, but The Homesteader by Oscar Micheaux, the book that set everything off and got everything running. Definitely should check that one out because, I mean, where would you want to start if not from the beginning? So thank you for sitting here with me, learning a little bit about Baba Micheaux. And right now, we got a little bit of these ads and sponsorships for you.
Buying or selling a home doesn't have to be difficult. At the James Allen Group, we work tirelessly to get families into homes and to get our listings sold quickly at the best price. James Allen, our principal broker, has over 30 years of experience as a realtor. As a U.S. Navy veteran, his knowledge of Hampton Roads and its community is a vital tool in meeting the home buying needs of military families. If you're ready to buy or sell your home, contact the James Allen Group at 757-449-8322. Sign up today for our free home buyer or seller seminar at jamesallengroup.com.
Howdy, I'm back. There were quick ads from our sponsors, right? Also, we got a little bit of comments. You guys are a little bit quiet today, but I see that you're here, and I'm happy you're here. But you are a little bit quiet. And you see, we got Brother Gore sitting there saying he's digging the head rep. And I had to switch it up a little bit. Because, you know, if we're talking about the history of Black film and what it was, then we got to have a little bit of showmanship with it. So that's what I brought to hear y'all today. You know, it's like just a little bit of showmanship. But y'all know, before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're about to do, that contemporary, that modern discussion on Black media, we need a little bit of historical contextualizing of what Black media was. And that's why I have my good friends, or at least I like to think they're my good friends. I like them anyway. But, you know, yeah, my people come on. And, you know, we still Howard down. But without further ado, I bring you my good friend Joseph, Sturgeon the Third, and Obior Okiki. You know, we gotta space it out a little bit, shall we? How y'all doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm great, man. Just starting the show off, starting the week off right. We back for another week, man. I mean, I'm excited about that one. I'm just happy to be back. Y'all a little quiet today.
I'm doing good today. I'm doing good. I'm happy.
I mean, I can understand why you guys would be quiet. Y'all are really not in SOC, so this might not be your area of expertise, which is understandable. If I need to spearhead the conversation today, I'm just saying, I'm putting it on for the grocery store. Shout out to Miss Bernadette.
Grocery store?
It's gonna stick. It's gonna stick.
It's not going to stick. You guys aren't co-op. Like, you gotta stop embarrassing yourself like this.
Whatever, man. It's gonna stick. But get into this history of Black media a little bit here. Basically, before we get into the history of Black media, someone has something for you, Obi.
About global music, again, I respect it. I do like its impact, but I do not. It's not for me. That's all I have to say about global music. It has not changed. Like, if you could send me a playlist, maybe I could change my mind. But from what I've heard so far, it's like just not for me. I don't personally go out of my way to play it.
Interesting. And then Kimmy says it's not gonna stick. I disagree, but that's just me. I know it's gonna stick. But back to what the people really wanted to see. I'm glad James brought up go-go a little bit because go-go is a form of black media. Miss Star says you on thin ice, by the way, bro. Starting to show off a little bit iffy.
God.
But basically what we're getting into is the history of black media. And it's a daunting topic, right? Because we got to cover like thousands of years of black media in a handful of minutes so the people understand what's going on. Y'all think we can do it?
Yeah, of course.
We do it.
Okay, cool. If y'all ready, then I'm with it too. Let's get to it. So basically, I'll start it off. So when people think of media, they tend to think of film or, a TV show, not the fact that media is interwoven with black life, which this is how we get out of this. So let's start all the way back from one of the earliest beginnings of known black media, which are the Guerrilla Gospels. Fellas heard of that?
Nope.
Earliest known religious Christian texts found in Eritrea around 5th, 6th century BC. No? Okay, cool. But right there, it's cool, bro. Like I just found out about it the other day. Like, but the Guerrilla Gospels, and before that, we have the Egyptian and Nubian and Ethiopian hieroglyphs. A lot of early black media. When I mean early, I mean like early. I'm talking like 2000, 3000, 4000 BC. A lot of that stuff, people will call prehistory. All of that is mostly located in what is now Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. All of that, because that's where the former Ethiopian empire reigned. So a lot of that is sort of located over there. But what I wanted to get into is that the Guerrilla Gospels were just one of the earliest pieces of literature or media that people know of, and it was heavily religious. And then we have the teachings of Path Hotel. Y'all know who that is? It's one of the first known books outside of that. All right, whatever. Okay, cool. So maybe the books thing isn't really hitting. But like, okay, like the written script, maybe instead of they're doing it for you, the hieroglyphs, that's a form of black media.
That definitely is a form of black media, definitely. And I think it's safe to say that black people have honestly originated forms of media. Like we are responsible for the earliest iterations of what you can consider media.
Exactly. And before, have you ever seen like hieroglyphic cursive? Because there was a cursive version of hieroglyphs. I don't know.
I never was aware of that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
See, learn something new every day. But now we're sort of trudging along a little bit here. We have from the hieroglyphs, there was birthed the Meroitic script. Because right now we use the Phoenician script, but it's been adapted to the Latin, and that's how we get English and the like. But after hieroglyphs, there came the Meroitic script a little bit later after that. But that's what I showed you guys the other day. Meroitic script, super beautiful. It's got 24 characters, I believe. It had a numbering system as well. And they even had line dividers. See, I'm just saying. But moving on, because maybe the ancient history, literary, nuances aren't your thing. But the whole time that's happening, we are dancing people. We're not only a dancing people, but a singing people. We're a rich, culturally rich, socially rich people, because you can't change the culture from the society. They're together like that. And a lot of people don't understand that music is a form of black media. Obi, this might not be your conversation, seeing as you've been on thin ice with Go-Go for a while. So Jody, you know what I'm saying? What we know about what do we know about black history and music? Once again, deep.
We know about
we got to cover in a couple seconds.
Explorations of jazz in Chicago and New Orleans. We know about the earliest iterations of rap music in New York, as Obi would know.
How are you gonna mention jazz and not Harlem in the same sentence?
Hey man,
if you're gonna give New York's flowers, I'm gonna need you to do it in totality.
New Orleans, but whatever.
New York.
So
New York
jazz comes from.
Let's talk about New York.
No, jazz. Okay, it doesn't originate, but you gotta like.
You want to talk about jazz? Where's Miles Davis from?
I just want to say New York. is home to so many iconic forms of Black
Name
music,
them.
and it's just like New
Name
York,
them.
New York,
Oh God.
New York.
I'll give you one. Dizzy.
New York is just
Bird.
this beautiful place.
Is that who Miles used to run with when he went to New York?
I honestly think, no, but I'm being for real right now. I'm being for real right now. I don't think, I can't say this, but I feel like New York is just, it may not have originated in New York, but the way New York does it definitely sets trends. And I'll leave it at that.
I'm glad y'all brought up some contemporary music because basically, dude really wanted to shout out New York, like just ignore everything. But no, Obi had a really good point, and it's that whenever Black people congregate, we tend to make this new sonic genius, I guess, because jazz found a new home in New York and clubs in Chicago as well as New Orleans and around these different cabarets. But what we really got to be honest with is that before jazz found life truly in the cities, it was in the fields and the migrations of Black people in the South with the blues and the, spirituals and hymns there. And before Black people even stepped foot in the South of America here, we were sort of back in West Africa. And
sort of.
Yeah,
I don't know everybody's lineage. I don't want to put that on some people. Some people not really.
You talking about the Moors, man?
I'm not the Moors. I'm talking about people who might not have.
Continue. Just get next topic because I don't want to open that box.
No, for real. No, because what I really wanted to get into was before we got into like 20th and like 18th century like America, but usually the drums. That's what I thought y'all was gonna hit me with before I jumped into jazz. Drums were a form of media, not just because of the music itself, but what the music represented. And that right there was the fact that drums meant war. They also meant a great celebration. There was also just ways for villages to communicate with each other. And we see how that has turned into what we have now. And Black people use music to do whatever we need to do. I mean,
I think it's also worth noting that drums are kind of essential in so many forms of music. Some Absolutely. Type of percussion, some types of cymbals, snares, like definitely. And honestly, down south, the way bands operate is crazy. Like HBCU wise, at least you can see like bands hold so much social capital down south. Like it's really serious. Like they take it very seriously.
Who has the best HBCU band?
I have to say Jackson State. Jackson State.
Aside from the fact that you sold out Showtime like that, Jackson, what about Graham?
Graham is good too. Showtime is nice. Showtime, like, they win awards. They're good. But me personally, when I want to see a HBCU band, I definitely go for the Southern ones. Like ASU, Jackson, Graham is very good.
Y'all are sleeping on the Marching 100 at FAMU right now, bro.
I know. You sound like you just
FAMU. I do not watch as much as the other ones.
Okay, so you gotta go. YouTube, right? You gotta go on YouTube right now. The first thing you're gonna listen to is their iteration of "Hot" by Young Thug because they went off on that, and then their iteration of "Served" by Young Thug because that also goes off. I think they actually mixed the two, but anything you listen to by the 100, it usually bangs. They don't give enough credit.
Jackson State is a serious band.
Jackson State, they go hard, but
the Sonic Boom of the South does not play. Like, I think that's a personal favorite for me. But like in terms of like majorettes, ASU. The Stingettes, they do what they need to do.
I'm glad we had that discussion, and hopefully people from ASU, Jackson, Graham, and FAM come on the show and they can debate that amongst themselves because it looks like y'all just have no love for Showtime right now. We'll get them next time.
To be honest, though, to be fair, it's not the same, and I think it's because it's just not. And the cultures of the northern HBCUs and the southern ones are not the same. It's just not. Like even I think the further north an HBCU is, you can kind of see how it differs from certain characteristics. For example, Howard's emphasis on the band is not as strong as Jackson's at all. At all.
I mean, I'm not going to co-sign that because I go to the school, but I'll let you rock that one by yourself. But I'm wearing the shirt right now. I'm not going to sell my school out.
I'm just being honest. Like, how are we excelling different areas? Like, instead of our band, but our band compared to the southern bands, it's just not the same. Because down south, like I said, like even the high schools down south, the way that they emphasize their bands is crazy. It's like
football is bigger down there.
Solomon Brooks says Morgan State has the best band.
Everything is bigger than Texas. Wait, everything is bigger than Texas.
Like, I'm not even going to acknowledge that one, bro. Like, it's Morgan. No offense to Morgan, but we talking bands. And I bang with Morgan, bro. But
yes, the only HBCU I think NCAT is a border state, right? North Carolina's a border state, or is that the South?
North Carolina's the South.
It's not a border state?
No, it's North Carolina. It's a Carolina. It's the South.
Okay, yeah. NCAT, I feel like, has the best of both worlds. And I don't know why, but I feel like I see both aspects of northern and southern HBCUs in that one HBCU. I can't really explain it, but you can kind of just tell. Whereas a school like Grambling obviously wouldn't have the northern aspects.
I think a major reason that you might like notice this narrative just like dwindling in NCAT is because like just because like the school is in the north don't mean like that it's majorly like northern students at these schools, because I mean NCAT is the biggest HBCU that like exists, so like it's probably kids all from the South just like congregating in that one HBCU and bringing their culture over, because these HBCUs, like every single one is a melting pot. So that might be why.
And Howard as well, like just based off location, we can't be outside all year long. Like we get snow, we get cold. They don't do that.
That's funny how y'all talking about we get snow, but we haven't been on campus yet. But it sounds like we have, doesn't it?
Why do you have to keep bringing this up? Like you don't have
I'm hurt too. Black media. Basically, I'm glad we talked about the drums and the dances, but then we got to see that media takes the form of the verbal and going back to the written, because the scribes of ancient Ethiopia were there, as well as the jollies, which mean the blood, because that's really what it is. These stories, our histories, they're like the blood of us. As long as you know where you're coming from, then you'll know where you're going to end up going. And that's really what the jollies and scribes did, thinking about the posterity, which is what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of black musicians. And when I mean a lot, I mean most black musicians, they're acting as our modern day scribes, our modern day griots. Griots is the French for jolly, but they mean the same thing, basically, a storyteller. But they're acting as our modern day jollies here, because music really is the blood right now of black culture, or one of the bloods here. And it's the fact that like we see a lot of these artists come out and they create these or then not only do they create, but they also explain what's going on in their societies. And we see that with jazz, we see that in the contemporary with rap now, what Kendrick has got going on, whether he drops it, with Crit in the South, J. Cole, if you're a fan of dude like that, you know what I'm saying? But just anybody, like when we see a lot of these artists and these songs, they have a larger message because they relate to what black people can relate with it so much easier. Even in the thing is, like, it's so diverse with it, right? Because just like spill 3 black songs, just offer up
3 black songs, like period. It don't matter, like
just offer up black artists.
It don't even matter. Just go.
Okay, so Freedom by Beyonce.
I don't know.
I'll give you New Apartment by Ari Lennox, and I'll give you.
You said any song by any black artist. That just like
you said. This is just who is in my head right now. I thought
you understand. I was trying to do like it was an expansive thing. You know what I'm saying? And it was
so they say that.
You have to. I was like, you was like Beyonce, Ari Lennox, and we sitting there in the 21st century when we supposed to be doing the past today. I was like,
okay,
this song is like,
okay.
Jody got Teddy Riley?
I think so.
I know, I'm right here.
Oh, he back.
So you want me to give my 3 songs?
Yeah, go ahead. Shout out to Big Crit.
Okay.
Love you, man.
We got
to the sundown.
We got North by Vince Staples.
Okay.
We got All Right by Kendrick. I'll give you that.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of one. Changes by Tupac.
Okay. Cool. All right. So heavy rap. What you got, Obi?
I already gave you Beyonce and Ari. Ari. Sorry. I'm gonna give you
Ari.
I'm gonna give you a third woman. Give me 1 second.
All right, and then I'll give y'all mine since they showing their age and not really paying homage right now. Let's do Flamenco Sketches by Miles Davis, jazz aspect. Then we have It Is Hard, and I don't think about it.
Yeah. It's not really.
Let's go. X Gonna Give It To You by DMX, just because real rap. And I don't know.
I'm gonna give you "Feeling Good" by Nina Simone.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you let's see.
Miss Star said Earth, Wind, and Fire. Oh snap! Between the Sheets, Isley Brothers. It hit me. You know what I'm saying? Just a little. It might be a little bit too old for y'all, think so. Between the Sheets.
Hey, I'd Rather Go Blind is a very good song.
But we getting off track.
Very good song.
But like we said, this is a Pan-African production. You know what I'm saying? An expansive production. So aside from the fact that we already talked about how music has always been here with us, but getting sort of back to the films and the creations and the cartoons, things like that. Nollywood came out in the 1960s. America as Hollywood. Obi, you want to cover this?
He's a resident Nigerian. So.
Nollywood, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. I can't even clown it. Like, okay, Nollywood is actually very, very. It's a distinct and iconic part of Nigerian culture. And it, me personally, when I was a kid, I used to think it was just like a comedic attempt at a movie, like most of the movies. I was like, because it would always be low budget. The CGI would be abysmal, and it would be like over dramatic, like always over dramatic. So as a kid, I thought it was just like playing around, but no, it's an actual industry. And recently they actually had. I can't even lie. Recently, the movies that have been coming out, like the most prominent movies that have been coming out of Nollywood, have been very high quality, very intricate, very well done and polished productions. And I think it's honestly a very good insight into Nigerian pop culture or what's mainstream at any given point in time.
Mm-hmm. You sure?
Yeah.
Because all I can think of is the "Why You Running" meme. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's the thing. People like.
Is that what I gotta expect in Nigeria?
The "Why are you running?" People,
why are you running? Why are you running?
People see that and like they really think that's all that there is, or that these movies, they can't be serious, but they are. And like, to be honest, sometimes you have to take a step back and realize like they don't have the same budgets to do these hyper polished productions, but they're still making it work recently. Like, it really is coming up. And I think this isn't really movies and stuff, but in terms of Nollywood in general, like Nigeria is actually becoming a very I don't know how to say this, a very like a landmark place for fashion as well, which can be another form of media. And it's honestly very interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Looking out for Ghana and Nigeria for being the cultural and economic hub of West Africa in the coming years. But that's for Thursday. So, but getting off of Big Niger and whatever they got going on in Nollywood, we have several sort of other forms of Black media, because there was the film, and then the film came into people's homes, and that's how we get Black TV shows, with a certain TV show being very critically acclaimed and making landmark decisions and just really being a push and a pioneer for Black people that I can't mention due to the name of the show. But moving on, Everybody Hates Chris was great. Then we got if you think about it, with the Doctor.
Next, please.
All right.
I do not know what he's talking about.
No, I know it. Okay, he just randomly just threw Everybody Hates Chris.
How
he wove that in.
Yeah, okay. I get it, bro. I don't want to. I realize.
I can't get us. Showing your age, bro. But Everybody Hates Chris. Then you got, oh man, because I remember like Sanford and Son was my show, bro. Sanford and Son. Then you got Sanford and Son, the Jeffersons. It was the Cosby Show. It was the Cosby Show.
Earliest I think about is
there is like
Family Matters, Prince of Bel-Air,
Different World, Living Single. Oh man, you know what I'm saying? Like different. What else they had? Because
I have a question.
Moesha made what's good?
Do you think that Black media, or let me say this, Black television shows such as sitcoms, et cetera, have been pushed to the side recently? Like, do you think that we had this golden age of Black television that has subsided?
Define golden age of Black television.
Where you can find multiple casts on at once, doing various things or focusing on various topics with the HBCU plugins and just being unapologetically Black on these channels and networks.
Yeah, I'd say that like the 90s was probably one of the better versions of like Black people being portrayed, because I mean, Good Times is like a Hallmark show, but that was not a good show for Black people after a certain point. Especially like the mom, she was very anti-Black. She was a very anti-Black character. And because y'all remember the episode when the youngest son, he went and he put up a picture of like Black Jesus, and she was like, "Take this off the wall." Like, y'all remember that? Okay, so y'all didn't stay with y'all grandparents and just watch reruns all the time when y'all was kids.
My grandparents passed away when I was young, so
my fault. Yo. Dang, Jody, my bad.
I'm sorry for your loss. Honestly, though, me personally, I never sat and watched reruns with anyone. I just kind of explored the channels myself.
Channels.
Any channel really, honestly. But I think my point of asking that question was, a lot of people argue that we are in a time period where we do not have that representation anymore, and we don't really have Black television shows on anymore. And if they are on, they tend to be made by Tyler Perry, and then people have their issues with that. And then we can talk about BET being sold and how me personally, I think that we're in a place where we can establish, or we need to establish, another Black entertainment network, because it's not looking good.
I'm glad you said that. It's not looking good, because this kind of sets up what we'll be doing in a couple minutes with the rest of the guests, because we do got two people coming on for y'all. Just two, not a full house, but still full of energy. But I wanted to sort of wind it down here, because we had like the early 2000s, late 90s. We had a lot of these different Black cartoons. A lot of people know Static Shock. That was like a big one for a lot of kids growing up. I know myself. But now we're at this sort of critical juncture point, because Black media is kind of left sort of up in the air. We don't have a Jet or an Ebony magazine anymore. A lot of people don't even know their Black newspaper, their Black local newspapers or Black state newspapers. When it comes to BET is a caricature of what it once was, and the Boondocks episode sums it up pretty well. And then it's kind of like which is why the title was "What Was Black Media?" Because, well, we know what it was, but like, where are we going now? And before we dip out here, Ms. Star says, around the late 90s, early 2000s, they began to make it necessary for Black sitcoms to have an ounce of step and fetch, and they must be white leads. It can no longer be an all-Black cast.
That's terrible.
So
that explains a lot, though.
It does, because I mean, like, dude was named Virgil, and he, was in a heavily violent area with dreads, but his best friend was white. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that if I was Static Shock, I would have had a black best friend.
And no, they changed a lot of his character because in the comics from the 90s, yeah, Richie was his friend, but like that wasn't his like best friend. Like he was within the same friend group. His best friend was actually Larry, I think, and Larry was black, and Larry was also a drug dealer. So it's just like you gotta like switch. I mean, like, okay, Static Shock was a kid's show, and then the Static comic was like a comic, but it's just like the fact that they had to like replace Larry's title as his best friend rather than like just like keeping it the same.
Larry
it's kind of like
make him a drug dealer. You just make him like a bad kid. So
not even. He didn't even have to be a bad kid. He could have just been like a supportive best friend, the same way Richie was. If like they took the same character as Richie and just made him black, it would have been fine. He didn't have to be no bad kid. He didn't have to be troubled or anything. But like, they didn't have to like switch the narrative up.
I'm personally tired of black people being included in films to be saviors or just to be sidekicks or to be auxiliary to a white person. It happens so often. It happens too often. And then if there is a black lead, they tend to be a terrible representation of black people, surrounded by white people.
That's literally like Tyler Perry though. Like,
but Tyler Perry, I saw a tweet.
Not yet.
Okay.
I'll say and because we gotta save this energy for the guests, bro.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying. Remember, we got other people going on. So, are you gonna drag them now? What's good?
No. Add them because I want everyone to be on this.
So we'll get with you guys in a minute, but we have a word from our lovely. Welcome back.
Hello.
Oh man. So, okay, Solomon Grayson says, I feel as though Lovecraft Country was a good starting point of what black television should be going forward. And I think with Tyler Perry, Lovecraft Country, we sort of settled ourselves firmly in people's homes, on their TV screens. And I think we'll do what we're gonna do, Obi.
I mean, okay, I can talk about Lovecraft too because I love this.
Not yet. I'm talking about how we got to introduce the guests. I thought y'all was going.
Yeah, let's introduce them. So introduce them.
I'm about to. I thought y'all was gonna hand it. What's the point of me playing the pick and roll if you're not gonna roll?
I'm not a center or a power forward.
Just introduce the guests.
But okay, I'm glad we're starting the week off like this. Okay, so I do it like this because I need somebody who actually understands the pick and roll with me. Some of y'all who were here a couple months back remember my virtual village influencer days. My boy right here, Professor Q, going to Graham, where he's aspiring to be an educator, about to educate us tonight right here. How you doing, Q? Q back, you know what I'm saying, repping this school.
Yeah, I know you guys see it. A whole bunch of Howard people around you. I had to do a little bit something for the school, you know.
Hey, by the way, you forgot to mention that's a history major right there. We got 3 on the screen right now.
Oh yes, sir. We'd love to hear it.
3 history majors.
3 history.
Yep. History. I mean,
half of
already.
Yeah, it's like the little oh gosh, sleep the rust, Jameer, the rust. I'm pointing the wrong way already. It's like the little symbol you guys got over there, the Sankofa. You got to look into the past so you can have a better future. So we have 3 history majors. You know, we look into the past so we can have a better future right now. And then that's why Jameer brought us a whole group of intellectuals together so we can have this better future, so we can have these conversations.
See, Q gets it. I don't know what y'all was doing earlier, but Q gets it. And then another good friend of mine, it's weird how we met all of these. I've met all these different people in a virtual space, but I think it's pretty dope, just using media that way. But I swear, she was in every single one of my classes, and probably one of the only people who actually spoke in Dr. Carr's class. And when she spoke, it was like, okay, how do we progress the discussion here? So when I was doing the whole black media topic, I was like, I know Obi was in my class. Obi was asleep. So I don't know. Okay, but it's moving. Besides the point. That's besides the point. That's besides the point.
Okay.
Basically, this is a person who I trust very much with talking about black media, because I mean, why wouldn't I? So we have Manyak. How you doing?
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
You are live and in charge. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
Cool. So, Obi, you can follow up with your Tyler Perry rant.
Tyler Perry. Okay, so I saw a tweet that I think describes his work very accurately. This black woman, she said, Tyler Perry takes all of black women's fears and makes them come true on screen. And that tweet resonated with me because I've watched my fair share of his movies.
Why?
Because as a kid they were funny, and then I grew up and then they weren't funny. But then he made like more, I guess you could say, less comical and more like mirrors of life. But then those mirrors were very warped movies. But basically, like stuff like Acrimony, if y'all ever watched that.
Economy.
Anyway,
whatever, bro. I laugh.
Like no, that wasn't funny. But those movies, like he really does. And you know, black women especially, they continue to voice their concerns or discontent with his work, and I can see why. He really makes them their own worst enemies in the worst ways. It's very interesting when you look at like some of his work. For example, Acrimony, he ends the movie with, or not, well, I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but
I'm not gonna watch it.
You're not gonna watch it.
Okay.
Watch it.
So the movie starts with this woman whose husband who basically stole all her money over the course of 20 years. And then by the time he actually reaches where he wants to go in life, because he's like an engineer, he leaves her for a lighter skinned woman and marries her and gives her all like the gifts and presents that he promised his old wife. And the movie ends with her accidentally killing herself. And it's crazy. Like, and the message it gives, the storyline, like she basically was killed by her own rage. That was the overarching theme. Like she was so mad that she tried to attack him and accidentally killed herself. But it's just like he continues to.
That was a key detail you kind of left out there, that she killed herself trying to kill him.
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
It makes the title fitting though, Acrimony.
Yeah, she basically what happens is she has like an axe or something, and she like tries to stab him, but she hits the anchor cord on the boat, and so the anchor was wrapped around her foot, and she gets dragged underwater, and like she drowns.
She drowns?
Yeah, and she was wearing a wedding dress and everything. It's like dramatic, but the thing is, he consistently has black women end up destroying themselves in his movies, and it's just, or being destroyed by the people that they love. And I can see why she would say like he takes black women's fears and makes them come true, because that is ridiculous. It's like just bad.
I'm glad you mentioned Tyler Perry, because I feel like if we're going to talk about black media in the contemporary, then we have to sort of discuss Tyler in the sense that basically when it comes to, so films are probably one of the more popular forms of media. Films, and because they're easily disseminable and they don't take as much commitment to it as, let's say, a long-term TV series, because like Scandal, for example, that's like on and on, and Living Single, and like Fresh Prince. So when it comes to a film, especially if you're doing a Tyler Perry film, you can do everything in like 3 days. So basically, if we're going to discuss Tyler Perry, we got to understand that what you said, he sort of depicts black women as their own worst enemies, while also black people in general as lacking something, whether it's compassion, usually from the male characters, it's some form of emotional debasement or disattachment that leads them to act excessively violent, abusive. Unless you're a light-skinned Shamar Moore, then you come in as the hero with some weird dreads doing field work. But that's different. So you can see that there's a definite colorist viewpoint from Tyler Perry, where a lot of the darker characters are some form of a caricature, whether they're excessively promiscuous, angry, or suffer from some form of what's it called? Like some form of something. So thank you. And which is why I wanted Oscar Micheaux to be the opening here, because Oscar Micheaux, independent filmmaker, and made films about Black people and Black life, while also maintaining that Black people were still human and wasn't just playing off of sensationalized trauma. But Micheaux was actively critiquing white supremacy. Like Within Our Gates, that was him making films about white America from Black Americans' perspective, showing the demon that was within the gates of the country we all share. Hence the name. And then we have Tyler Perry making movies about Black women basically drowning themselves from anger. So the question here is not who is responsible for Tyler Perry, but more so how do we ensure that another Tyler Perry isn't created by saying it's a complex question. Let me finish it, but I see y'all. So it's like, how do we get away from praising these artists in the realm of film, so film and television? How do we get away from praising, giving them leash when they create these caricaturized images of Black people and produce Black trauma films? And who wants to tackle that first?
Okay, so your question is somewhat related to something that I wanted to touch on as it relates to Black media and its role in larger media in general, is that I feel like, especially today and probably for the past 30, 40 years, one huge issue with Black media is, the stakeholders, white America, what they tend to do with Black media is they see that one gets like especially popular or like they have like this very successful work. And then they tend to tokenize, this one Black creator, this one Black filmmaker, this one Black author, this one Black documentarian. And they basically use them as the basis for any kind of Black art that is created after that gets popular. And I think that we're seeing it with like right now, like when it comes to, documenting the Black experience, everybody points to Ava DuVernay. Or when it comes to, speaking about or speaking to the Black experience through like books or just, commentary, they look straight to Ta-Nehisi Coates. When really the Black community in America alone, and this isn't even the African diaspora in total, there's 45 million of us. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people are going to be able to, tell our stories in total by themselves, and they're not going to be able to capture the full scope of them. But yet, like, since we don't have like that much, agency to go out and create these things, like through capital or whatever, like tools we can use these through, we can't really get our stories out there the way that we want them to, because, it's just dominated, kind of like monopolized by these 2-3 people.
Anybody else?
She got it.
Go ahead.
All right. So you said, how do we stop another one? From my thinking, I don't think necessarily that it'll be possible to stop another one, because one, it's money. So people are going to follow what the money follows, and that's the stereotypical. And people, as Black people, we see a Black movie producer putting out these movies. They're probably going to want to support, and they're probably going to follow. But if they're putting out movies like this, that's like you guys said, it's traumatory, and it's like creating Black nightmares, like Obi said, of the Black woman. But I think Black people are just going to go ahead and follow. And also we got to think about the production companies. They're only going to put out what they want to put out. So if we got movies of, say, a dark-skinned woman doing wonderful things, they might not put that out before a light-skinned woman doing wonderful things and a dark-skinned woman being the angry Black typical woman. Because like I said, the production companies go ahead and put out what they want to put out. They got to get their permission first before you can go forward with the movie. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass that over to her.
I was gonna say there is no stopping Tyler Perry, especially since he has his own studio. Like he literally has a studio where everything that he does is. So there is no stopping him. So the solution would be to lift other people up. So you have Misha Green, you have Jordan Peele, you have Barry Jenkins and Ryan Coogler. To lift those type of people up is what we have to do. And another reason why there's no stopping Tyler Perry is because some people don't realize the harm that he's doing in this film. Not everyone is aware of that, so they'd still watch it anyway. Because at the end of the day, it's entertainment. So we just have to, as a collective whole, try to raise other people up because there is no stopping him.
Sure enough. Obi?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I definitely agree with Monique. Like, he has a production studio, and I will say though, like, with everything that he has done, a black man owning the largest production studio in the nation is an admirable feat. What he's doing with that
is it?
What
is it?
I think it is.
I mean, where did he get that money from?
Right, not like that.
Why is he getting that money?
That is a good point. That is a good point. You know, what has he done to get there, and what is he doing with it? Is things that we should examine and look at. But I think, well, there is this hope that he will open his studio up to, you know, indie black filmmakers and the smaller, you know, production groups that will be able to make black stories. We don't know it. What?
You think there's a hope?
We don't know if he's going to, but there is this belief or general hope that he will, you know, because it's not easy getting into the film industry or in getting production done. Why are you pointing at yourself?
Dude,
he's not pointing to himself.
But you're talking about me? Or what?
I'm just saying, I just feel like it's very idealistic to believe Tyler Perry is going to open up that studio to actually create black media that's conducive to the black community.
There's a hope that he will. Because
I don't give him that hope.
Isn't he aggressively stubborn as a person? Like, doesn't he not have a writer's room?
He is the writer's room.
They tried to critique him and he fired everyone.
Oh.
To be honest, what to say?
He has too much power. He has too much power.
Like, I don't. Do you think he's pro-black? Like, do you think? Oh my God.
I feel like if you're someone who writes about black women in the way that he does, there's no way you could be pro-black.
That's true. That is true.
I don't think single-handedly ever thought about black people, black women, especially in a good light.
I'm trying to find a saving grace.
Ain't nothing, bro.
Tyler Perry, he gotta go.
Tyler,
done.
Okay, well, moving on to positives. Lovecraft Country, which Solomon.
I wouldn't even. Okay. So we critique. All right, because we're still on TV and film, and if you wanted to talk about Lovecraft Country in a positive, then I mean that's cool. But before we get there, Marsh said Tyler Perry's stubborn. He's made the same movie 20 times, which makes sense. He says if you got to ask if someone is pro-black, they're probably not. But Lovecraft Country is a part of this black TV, and it's like really startling. It's really eye-catching because it's black people outside of the realms that we've typically been portrayed. I mean, it was like black people in Lovecraftian monsters, and everything that entails. And black people were the heroes, except who was one of the main antagonists.
Don't do a Ruby like that.
I'll give you a hint. Oh, you got it.
Ruby like that. Ruby's character is complex. And I know,
to me, Ruby's character depicts a bootstraps mentality of if all you have to do is work twice as hard just to get one spot, and you sneer down on every other black person. And if you understand that Ruby, the bootstraps mentality was her aspiration not for economic stability, but towards actual whiteness, which is what we see with her in the trifle with, you know, the shape-shifting one. And that right there, Lovecraft Country, great show. But I nitpick, and people tend to not have conversations with me about certain things because they're like, "Why do you hate everything, Jai?" And I'm like, "I don't hate everything. Everything is just anti-black in a way." And then they're like, "Just enjoy the show," and I'm like, "I can't."
The thing about Ruby is I don't think it's fair to just label her as anti-black, because you have to understand.
I didn't say she was anti-black. I said the character was anti-black.
Ruby's a character. Anyway, as a character, I think you have to consider the fact what she was going through at the time, what had been done to her in the series so far. Because she throughout the entire thing, she kept this sense of, I am still a black person, and like at the end of the day, this does not change me. And she even says after she's done with shapeshifting into a white woman, she's like, "Listen, I've been a white woman. I see what you guys do. Like you guys obsess over the stupidest things, and you guys don't know what pain and struggle is." I think, to me personally, I think her whole shapeshifting thing was more of a curiosity and less of a I want to be white. Because throughout the series, she's very clear on the fact that she does not want to be a white woman. She just wants to be uninterrupted, which I don't think she necessarily aspires to whiteness. I think she's more of an opportunist.
She sounds like Booker T. Washington to me. I ain't seen a show, but that's what she sounds like.
She sounds similar to that. Like she's not like, oh, I want to be white, but it's like, I'm gonna do what I can to get me ahead. She's very selfish in that sense, but in the end, she does turn around and realize she did wrong things. But she does.
Are y'all gonna watch the show?
It was too late when she realized that, though.
When she realized she did get killed, so it's like,
okay, so we spoiled it. Yeah, Ruby dies.
Oh my god!
Hey dog, I ain't watched.
I'm gonna watch this later. I was interested. I was like,
I asked twice.
Well,
it's all good. It's all good.
Odie was still talking, so and I couldn't really hear what you were saying. Like I heard watch the show. But I didn't know you was asking if I was gonna watch. I was gonna watch it because of this conversation we was having right here.
There's so much more that happens in the show though. Like she's not like in the vein. Like trust me, there's so much more.
Open the door for Lovecraft Country in current TV, and we have Watchmen was another one where superpowers, black people fighting back against these white forces. Lovecraft Country was another supernatural attempted black people fighting back with these white forces. And Ms. Starr has this to say about Ruby. But Ruby was the tragic character. She was a depiction of how many black people really think. Her struggle showed how many of us don't want to deal with the cost society has placed on being black. I think she was designed to cause us to shake our heads rather than agree with her.
I agree. I think, like me personally, at first I hated Ruby. Like I thought she was terrible.
That's crazy. You hated a dark-skinned black character in 2020?
Yeah, because she was
matter, right?
She was terrible. No, like it had nothing to do with her skin color. She was terrible. She was selling out her family in a way. Like she was betraying them in a sense, and she didn't care that the main character was gonna die. Like she was bad up until she was good. And she was very individualistic. Like it was weird. And I agree with what Ms. Starr said. Like she was created to make us shake our heads, but when you really analyze her as a character in the show's context, you can kind of begin to understand and see why she did what she did. And listen to what she says in certain scenes, then you'll understand more. But at first, I did not like her at all.
I think the history, like the time that the show was set up in, is also very important for Ruby's character, because this is Afrofuturism, so it's placing a black narrative in the past through the lens of black people, as it shows black people saving the day. And I won't spoil the rest, but Ruby's character is definitely something that I think might be a reflection of what actual people went through in that time, because black people just couldn't have anything because they were black. And sometimes you would find people like Viola Davis was in an interview. She was saying that she grew up in poverty, and the way that she escaped from that was her and her sister had different personalities, and they would act like they were white women who had no cares in the world. So that's Ruby personified. So that's what some people actually had to go through in their life. So I think that's something important to keep in mind for Ruby's character.
Yeah, Ruby was an artist as well. Like, and she mentioned this too in the show. She was tired of being overlooked or not given her the correct payment or not being given her correct time because she was a dark-skinned Black woman. And when she was a white woman, she got everything she wanted. But even after that, she still didn't want to be white. She wanted to be Ruby, but with white privilege. She wanted to be Ruby without the barriers of being Black. And it's hard to explain, but it wasn't like, oh, I don't want to be a Black person, because she's still connected with Black people and Black issues. But she just didn't want to come with the traumas and tribulations of being Black as well.
I'm glad that I haven't watched the show yet, so I can speak outside of it. But like her, newfound whiteness that she had temporarily, does that like not come at the expense of like the other Black people in the show? Like, would your answer be a spoiler or something?
Not really. It could be an expense in some way, but it might not be in the way that you're thinking of it, because you don't really know everyone that she affects yet, because you haven't watched it. So in a way, yes.
I will say this, as a white woman, she does stick up for Black people, which is interesting as well. She chose her she used her false white privilege to help another Black woman. But then you also see, in the same token, she starts to develop certain mannerisms and behaviors that we would call microaggressions towards the Black girl. Do you remember that scene when they were in the store and she's like over managing the Black girl as a white woman? She's like, you have to be twice as good as the rest of us. You can't do this, you can't do that. Your hair has to be this way. You have to be dressed this way. And it's
hearing that from a white woman.
That's what I'm saying. And like, she was this Black the other day, like yesterday, and she's white now, and she's telling this other Black girl, like, you have to do this and this and this and this. And that scene was very interesting to me, because it was like Ruby as a Black woman knows what that feels like, and she still did it anyway, which it was just thought provoking to me. Like, it was a very interesting scene, but her whiteness, I think the directors or the writers of the show really made it so that we would see every single side of this. So we see her being microaggressive, we see her being selfish, then we see her using her privilege for good, and then we also see her use her privilege to try and ultimately help Black people, but that's what kills her. So yeah.
Cool. I want to put a pin in that real quick, because we've been going on about Lovecraft Country and Tyler Perry for about a good minute. And Black media is expansive, bro. But I appreciate you guys for giving me that insight on Ruby and, the tragedies of what happens when you obtain whiteness as a Black person, which can really be expanded on in so many different ways, because what is whiteness? But moving on, another question, because we are in the contemporary here. We talked about the woes of being a sellout when it comes to making media, and we discussed what happens when some contemporary media takes on an Afrofuturistic lens. Had a little bit of a stutter there, to tackle some issues that some people might have faced and still do face today. But I want to ask you guys this question here about sort of when we're sitting in the contemporary here, and this is another thing, but we're talking about media and TV and film, but we're not really, Jody touched on it a little bit when it came to writers, in a sense, because I tried to get y'all to like start us off with the written works here. Y'all jump straight into the music, but basically when it comes to the written works, so there's a African writer, Akan, which is in Ghana, but more so Ayikwe Armah, and he has a writers collective there. And the sole purpose is to sort of establish a literary tradition or a literary foundation, kind of like what CCA does here, except to produce writers who follow this Africana literary tradition to sort of reclaim what was once lost. Because in his book, is called The Eloquence of the Scribes, it really details what's going on here. But sort of brief history there. There's the written tradition, which was seen in ancient Ethiopia, and some people know it as ancient Egypt, but for a time, the part of Egypt that really mattered was a part of the Ethiopian Empire, and then it got mixed and invaded a lot, and then things wasn't as great before. All of the good stuff came when black people were in Egypt. So, but that's when the scribes were there, and they wrote a lot of things because they understood there was a certain connection between those who died, those who were living, and those who were unborn, which you can see here in 2050 and beyond. Sort of take away from that, and Sankofa. But what I'm asking here is because like I said, this is a Pan-African and diasporic show here. Is that how do we introduce these Africans from across the diaspora to other works by Africans across the diaspora? Like, how do we get children to learn about Ayikwe Armah or Anton Furman or James Baldwin? You know what I'm saying? Like, because we know about James Baldwin because we're in America here, and we know all about Ralph Ellison. That's a shout out to my favorite book, I Love Invisible Man. But how does someone in Kenya or South Africa or Chad or the Congo or even up in Algiers or Brazil even? Oh, before we get into that, fun fact about Brazil, right? And this is why I mentioned Everybody Hates Chris, just shouted it out. Basically, in Brazil is a really black country. It's really, really black. And one of the few shows that depicted black people was Everybody Hates Chris. And that was broadcasted in Brazil. And that turned the whole cast into superstars over there. And Brazil is densely populated too. So whenever the cast go over there, I know Tanisha Arnold, she went over there and she was treated like everything, like droves. So Brazil is really Brazil loves Everybody Hates Chris. I liked the show when it came out. I have some reservations about Chris Rock now that I'm a little bit older, but show was still great.
We was kids, bro, when that show came out.
Because I used to watch. It was on Everybody Hates Chris is on Nick at Night. My wife and kids too, and that's when I got a favorable image of black families. Funny enough, and that's where I get most of my personality from. That's why I'm so smart and funny. But just moving on. Moving on, right? How do we get out? No. But how do we not only connect black people with these different writers, because books are important too across the diaspora, but how do we build a black literary tradition that's outside of the scope of whiteness itself? Because Ayikwe Armah, it's a writers collective, so it's black owned. Oscar Michaud, independent, black owned. How do we avoid these writers falling prey to these racist and capitalistic institutions? How do we develop that?
I think that organizations like Clever Communities and Actions, it's a literary organization. You guys are at the start, really. Just stuff like this, giving literary resources to students is just the start, and who knows where this could go. It could go worldwide. It could be an international organization, but this is literally the start.
Yeah, that is an interesting insight into how we could go about disseminating it. But I think another thing, and these already exist, but would probably be a publishing company, that focuses on blackness, in general, as an entire entity in itself. And I mean because you mentioned spreading them across the diaspora, right? And
okay, you froze. You got to backtrack.
I got frozen
mid sentence.
Okay, what's the last thing I said?
And you delayed.
He didn't freeze for me.
Wait.
No, he didn't freeze for me.
Froze. He did not freeze for me.
Wait, Jody, speak.
I'm speaking.
It's delayed, ain't it?
I think he's just really still. You might be the problem.
Me?
Okay, fine.
Okay, Jody, go, since I'm the problem.
All right, so, and this is a really abstract idea, but let's say, an international, black publishing company where, you take groundbreaking works by black authors, and this could be a multimedia thing, just shows, books, plays, whatever, just like something that just centers Blackness. And also, just since the African diaspora is so vast and it spreads across like vast cultures, vast languages, maybe just like funding translations for these types of things, because you're not going to like be able to disseminate something like across just like vast different populations unless you can just deliver it in a way that is accessible to these people. Because I could take the work of James Baldwin, put it in my pocket on a plane, and go to South Africa. But if it's in English, it's like, okay, there's probably a good percentage of like English speakers there, but are they really going to be able to read it? And is it going to connect with them like the way that I would intend it to for my American audience? So it would have to be like a very multifaceted thing to make sure that these works are shared and valued upon like these like vast different cultures within the African diaspora.
That's a very valid point he just made, and Dr. Carr I think also mentioned this as well. What did you have something to say? I'm sorry. The language.
Remember something Dr. Carr said.
Oh, Dr. Carr said, like he just mentioned that the language barrier is the first thing that we have to overcome when we talk about connecting across the diaspora, because we, like Jody just said, we can't connect to people who don't speak English, and like we would have to translate it to their languages and really make it meaningful to them the way we would have it made meaningful to us in English. So yeah.
All right. So I think to be able to get like African literature over here first, I think firstly, as a future educator, I think we got to put it in the schools. Black history, not even just Black history, no, it should just be like its own unit of literature in your language arts class, African literature, and you should be able to read it. You should get literary works, I'm sorry, from countries in Africa. You should read it, and then you should be able to break it down and fully understand it, so you can learn so you can learn their culture, and so you can learn everything about them. My lights went out. I'm sorry, guys. so you can learn so I think it should be a unit in your language arts class, so you can learn about their culture. And then once you learn about their culture, especially for college students, you should be able to go abroad and have a translator with you, since you guys were bringing up the language barrier, so you guys can talk about the literary works, talk about the culture, and then so you guys can bring even more literary works back to America, and then even transfer stuff, so the translator can speak about your James Baldwin, and then you can come back to America and Jai, I forgot the name you said, and I don't want to butcher it, but you can speak about the authors that Jamil was just speaking about. So you guys, that right there, I'm so sorry. But so you guys can keep speaking about it, and then you guys can bridge the gap essentially. So I think, me personally, it starts in the schools, high schools, colleges, etc.
I feel you on that, and I see that this is a conversation that's going to be a generational conversation that we have a couple of years down the road. But I think so sort of before we sort of skedaddle away from that one, I kind of wanted to just pose this little bit of a question that sort of ties everything back together, because we all understand that music itself is a huge force for Black people, especially the world, to be honest, and Black people directly influence the world in that way. So with that being said, we understand that Black people don't really make a lot of music off of that. A lot of these artists, they're in these oppressive contracts where they only get I think it was a 1/1,000,000th of a cent from every stream, depending on the service. So we see that Black artists, who are supposed to be our modern day Jollies and Griots, they're trapped in this capitalistic quagmire. We see that these Black these Black writers and authors, they're trapped in this capitalistic quagmire where they're relying on publishers. We see these Black film companies, they're trapped in this capitalistic quagmire. You see where I'm going? Basically, it's a lot of things for Blackness to sort of create and grow is trapped economically because we don't own that much capital in the country. So when it comes to these independent and indie franchises and debuts, how would you guys suppose we get that sort of name and brand out there? Because you could say that CCIA is an indie brand. So how do we sort of grow the independent movement for Black creatives and Black media in a way that we can set ourselves up to the point where we can be inside the schools and be in other countries with our brothers and sisters and kinsmen across the diaspora?
This was someone gonna go. Oh, I was gonna say there should just be like-minded people in different areas of the world. So that can look like per onc, but for music or for film. And there can be one in Africa, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, Central Africa. You can have some in regions of Europe, and because there's like a lot of the Black diaspora in the UK and the Netherlands, and you can have one in New York, in Atlanta, in California, and then you can have one in Brazil. It just takes like-minded people in those individual areas to do something and be able to stick with it.
I definitely agree with her. The thing about it is that it's kind of hard because like it's hard meeting like-minded people, because like getting like what Jameer did bringing us here, it's a hard thing to do because you gotta come again.
It's hard, bro. Like,
oh yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard trying to find people who think the way you do. And so firstly you got to find people, and then once you do that, you guys can be able to network. And first we got to go national, because if you move too big too fast, it could like blow up your whole operation. So we got to, well, I wouldn't even say start off national. You got to start off local, then you can go national. So once you start off like I believe I'm so sorry, Miss Star, if I do this wrong, but I believe it started Hampton Roads and then she went big. Now she got people reading who she had those tandem readings with a kid from Florida and a kid from Detroit. Flint. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm kind of rusty. But I got the state right. Close enough. But so then you can expand, and then you gather a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but you gather a select few of people, and then you guys can travel to different countries, like what Moon Young, right? Moon Yang, I'm so sorry. Like what Moon Yang said, then you can travel to the UK, and you can travel to different places to spread your word and spread your knowledge, and then like that you can spread like different your music, you can spread the literature, etc., etc. But I also think that it's important when we talk about spreading things, especially in the music category, we try spreading more positive stuff instead of negative stuff. And then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it to whoever needs it.
Jody, you muted, and I feel like everybody else scared to jump on the question.
I don't want to speak too much.
Because I was gonna make like a backhanded comment. Like, okay, Obi.
Oh, I was talking to Munyang. I was talking to you.
Oh, wait, Jody, are you gonna say something?
Oh man, he was like, I'm gonna pass it off to whoever need it, and ain't nobody need it, I guess. So.
Oh, I was gonna say there's different organizations now that's there's one that's called For Us By Us, so like for Africans by Africans, and they recently hosted a digital film festival, and they're a part of like a collective of different organizations. So that's an example of like what Q was saying. There's like one person that meets one person in a region, and that's just for film, and that can like just go in so many different directions, because some of these people are in Africa, some of these people are in Europe, and then like I'm here in the United States. So that's just like a whole branch that came from like one continent.
So with that being said, before we sort of wrap things up a little bit, another question, because we're talking about these like collectives and starting local before we go international, but where do you guys think like, oh, okay. So it's like this. So right now we're streaming on Facebook, we're streaming on YouTube. What do you guys think the role of social media is in today's society for Black people?
To connect us.
Connect? That be what you say?
Mm-hmm. I think primarily what social media does is connect. everything that happens afterward is a result of that connection. But I think, for example, I won't pretend social media is this big, happy, positive place, because it's not. But
it's not.
It does provide, especially during quarantine and lockdown, it provides this platform, or several platforms, where Black people can connect regardless of location. And that is when we get the good and the bad. I don't think connection is inherently good or bad, but we get the trolls, or we'll get the negative ways of thinking, or the closed-minded ignorance. But you also get positive things, like sharing things like CCIA, or things like open discussions about trauma that we may face as a community, protests, organizations, or just Howard in general. I would not know who you are if it wasn't for the connection of social media. I really wouldn't know at least 4 out of 5 people on here at all, if not for social media.
I'm confused. Do you mean all of us?
Well, yeah, all of you. Sorry, but I meant like
4 to 5. I was confused. Like, dog, you the fifth.
Yeah, I messed that up. But you know what I meant? Because even Munyang, I met Munyang because she responded to one of my tweets, and then we made a group chat, and that was that. Like, social media connects people. I think that's the primary or just inherent function of social media.
I definitely agree with Obi, and you can really see that in the way that we had our first online semester. I actually didn't think I would make any type of friends. I thought it was going to be schoolwork, and that's it. And now I'm here on this live stream because in Dr. Carr's class, I was talking to Jaimir about a book. So that just turned from one thing into another. So social media is definitely a tool that is used to connect us. And I think it's ultimately what you make it, because there are a lot of people that gain a lot of opportunities and experiences because of social media, people that get to work with their favorite artists or people that they look up to because their work is on social media, where they DM the artist and they respond. So yes, it's not a perfect place and it can be bad sometimes, but it could be a great experience for some if you make it that way.
Sure enough.
I mean, I really like what Obi said about how it is, or to connect. But like with Jaimir, what you said, gosh, Lee, when am I gonna get the pointing things right? It's been so long.
Gotta be like that. Oh, I'm still got it. My screen is small, but I killed it on that one.
So it's like, my bad. So it's like what Jaimir said. It's a bad place. It's a negative thing. Because even though to connect, what are we mostly connecting with? I mean, people are sharing stuff on World Star Hip Hop when it's just fights happening, rump shaking. For the kids watching, gotta keep PG. It's just a whole bunch of negative stuff. But if we can turn it to positive and do what CCIA is, and taking a network and pushing it out to spread more positivity, spread literature and other good stuff like that, we can take something negative and then turn it into a positive. And so I think social media, it has the potential if you just use it correctly.
And I think, oh man, we kind of running short on that one. But what Q was saying, it's typically the algorithms, because we have to understand these huge, the internet wasn't made with Black people in mind, and probably not with Black people in the room, really. Especially these huge social media platforms with Facebook.
Didn't a Black man invent the internet though?
I mean, you know what I'm saying though. I
know what you're saying, but
they were coming up because basically it was the intranet, because they were trying to get with the it was World War II facing the Nazis, and of course there's always a Black person in the room, always is. It's just whether history or not, their history decides to tell us. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but with these social media platforms, a lot of the algorithms tend to, I mean, we've seen it. The algorithms tend to play in favor of whiteness and keeping that hegemony above us. So that's for Thursday though. I'll question, where do we go with social media and the impact of that on our children and the unborn soon. So stay tuned. But before you guys get out of here, I want to sort of induct you into our Council of Scholars. Thank you. As well as I want to try something else out, but we'll see. We only got a couple minutes. So if you don't like it, then I'll play the ad. No one will be able to contest it. So, just joining the Mbongi Goodfellas. You feel me? Because like this is a room without walls. It's the internet. It's a virtual space. So the Mbongi Goodfellas. It's a play off of MOB Goodfellas. Mbongi. You get it? Like,
I want you to
with Mbongi. See, this is why we're gonna play the ad. I'm happy you guys are here.
I want better for you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you guys, my Yang, Q. You guys got anything you want to say to the guests before we head out?
Like Miss Star said, once you're part of the literacy gang, you're always part of it. Jamir, it's like a magnet. Jamir was like, sent me a text. He was like, Q, man, I'm doing this thing. You want to join? I was like, of course, I got to. So thank you, Jamir, for bringing me back. I'm always down. It's always a lovely opportunity. I love talking about things that impact the Black community and culture. So whenever you need me, I'm just a text away. And I'm glad that I met these three other great people from Howard. I hope we find a way to keep in contact with each other. And thank you everybody for being here, and Grand Fam.
All right. Sure. All right.
That HBCU, Beyonce gave them a special stamp of approval. Love Grambling. But continue.
Also, the football go crazy, but it's not about you. It's about Manyang.
Right? This was a very lovely time. I've never actually done anything like this before, especially on a virtual setting. And I think these conversations are very important, and I love being a part of them. So thank you for having me.
We love having you, man. You be safe out there. Thank you. All right. So now, guys, we're gonna hit you guys with just a word from our sponsors before we come right back.
Smart kids make our world better. At Heavenly Hearts, we believe that the right foundation is key to our future leader success. With our 4 key learning principles, which are inclusive learning environment, early exposure to financial literacy, community engagement, science and technology with engineering, art, and math labs will enrich each one of our future leaders as well as the community they are part of. In these unprecedented times, the $59 billion childcare industry has been dramatically impacted by the pandemic. Heavenly Hearts has currently implemented several advanced health and safety precautions to protect our children and staff at our current licensed facility in Chesapeake, Virginia. Our new location will continue to use advanced technology to protect our children from this and future threats to their health and safety. As our mission is to educate, empower, and equip our students with the necessary foundation to be holistically successful throughout life, we invite you to get involved. As an investor or community partner, you can help in a variety of ways. Contact Serena Mag at 757-254-8156.
I'm just like, I gotta hold like this.
And we're back. Partially back. I don't know. Obi might have got Teddy Riley. But show was great. Okay. I'm glad you're back. So how you guys feel about week 2? Starting off, great topic, great discussion.
Week 2. Sorry, it took me a second to understand what you said. I actually do like the discussion for this week. Definitely a fan. So yeah.
Oh wow, that was very concise and brief. I mean, there's not much to flesh about it, but I feel good. Definitely feel like that was a very heavy conversation we had there, especially towards the end when we started to, pound out into the abstract and talk about, like how we can go into disseminating this further. Kind of like challenges you a little bit, but it's always a good conversation to have. So.
And thank you, Dr. Quarles, for being, we might have to induct you onto the council soon enough. You just stay here with us. We happy for that, connecting boomers with millennials, but we're Gen Z or X. What are we?
We're Gen Z.
Really?
I think we are, yeah.
Yeah, we're Gen Z.
We're Gen Z.
Okay, cool. So Gen Z, boomers, and everybody in between sort of converging in this spot right here to keep it clean and keep it educated. And without further ado, we happy you was here with us tonight. We'll see you on Thursday.